my feeling is and always has been there are differences in drugs, and there are differences in crimes. And if you're going to make something a crime, you need to know the difference between murder, one, and petty theft. Right. You can't just say, it's a crime. You really need to know the difference between a kid who's stealing penny candy from the supermarket versus the person that is stabbing the person at the ATM.
Absolutely.
Now, both are wrong, both are crimes, both have victims. One is egregious and the other's not much. Now, we do understand that very clearly, and when it comes to other crimes, that's the way we sentence them. And for the most part, that's the way it works. You get caught for petty theft, you get a slap on the wrist. You get caught for murder one, you get life in prison. But somehow with drugs, we just throw a blanket over it. Drugs are drugs. And somehow, and the part that always drives me insane, if there's a hypocrisy, and I always use this example. They pulled over the North Hollywood bank robbers on their way to, I don't know, planning a robbery or doing another robbery. The North Hollywood bank robbers are the crazy Eastern Bloc guys that, by the way, were hopped up on meth, who covered themselves in body armor and put 1,200 rounds in the community while they just stood in front and started to fire their AK-47 with the armor-piercing bullets in it. Those guys got pulled over. Those guys, when they got pulled over, they found police scanners, automatic weapons, banana clips, ski masks, and body armor in the trunk of their car. What happened? They could not be charged with attempting to rob a bank. Why? They did not rob a bank. Right. They were probably on their way to rob a bank or going to do it later on that week. But we live in a land and in a system where people say, look, we have to wait until this guy robs the bank and then we can do something. That's the land we live in. You can get a whole bunch of threatening phone calls saying I'm going to kill you, saying I know where you are, saying I'm not. And if you tell the cops about it, the cops will say, sorry, we have to wait till the person does something. Right. We can't just go bust a person for threatening to say it or for having police scanners, body armor, and banana clips in their back in the back of their Chevette. That's the way our society works. Yet, if you catch me with half a pillowcase of weed, that's intent to distribute. Okay. I have not been caught selling my drugs. You just assumed I was going to sell my drugs because I had over a couple of ounces. And by the way, the amount you need for intent to distribute is not that much.
For some people, that's just a weekend.
Right. Some people buy weed like Kimmel goes to the Costco. They just stock up on it, and my argument is not my argument, it's your stupid argument, which is, yeah, you know how you couldn't bust the guys for robbing a bank who, by the way, you slapped on the wrist, and then 6 months later, they went out into the community and shot the entire community up when they were, in fact, robbing the bank? You know how you can't bust them? Well, how can you bust me for intending to distribute something? And by the way, intent? You know what I was thinking? You know that I was dealing drugs when, in fact, you never caught me dealing drugs or soliciting anyone to deal drugs? Think about the hypocrisy of that BS law. And then thirdly, it's pot. Let's understand the difference between drugs. Methamphetamines kill people. Not only do they kill the people that take them, those people kill people. Pot doesn't do anything. And Al Roker and his stepping stone argument, his gateway drug argument. Yeah. What did Al Roker pick up a phone from 1961 and call us? By the way, Al, are you high? You're
he has a zero tolerance policy, so I think
you're arguing that marijuana is a gateway drug.
He has to say that. He's on GMA or whatever.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Look, we
we
spend more money on pot eradication than we do on methamphetamine eradication in this country. And are we high? We don't understand that one is a horribly destructive drug, and the other is recreational, maybe at best. I mean, I know people, they've smoked pot for 30 years. Their fathers and sons and coworkers, they are, athletes and rappers.
But do you know anybody who freebases or who uses meth that's just an average member of society, likes to blow off some steam on a Friday night?
No. I do not. And of course, every penny should be going into eradicating methamphetamine and cocaine and crack cocaine and heroin. And we should just start at the top in terms of the most dangerous and move our way right down to the bottom. Because here's the deal. The government's job is to be pragmatic. That's all. Whatever causes the most trouble, that's what they need to focus on, and then they'll get to the next, and then they'll get to the next, and then they'll get to the next. We will take the road that has the most potholes on it, and we'll fix that road first. And then we'll get to the road that has the second most potholes. And the road that has the very small potholes that doesn't cause any damage and nobody gets hurt on, that one we don't have to worry about. I feel like we're giving that one just as much attention as the one that's killing people. The one with the huge sinkholes in it, and people are driving off cliffs and piling up into the bottom of it. That's the one we focus on. That's methamphetamine. That's what we need to focus on. Pot shouldn't be on the list. And the idea that they go out and they do these things all the time, like, hey, does it have medicinal purposes? Does it really help people with cancer? Who gives a good rat's ass? Your person is riddled with cancer. If they want to smoke weed, let them spend their last 4 months on the planet getting high.
Absolutely.
Why do I give a F what they do? Really, the DEA and the federal agents and blah, blah, blah. And sure, we've passed it. Sure, California's passed it. But the feds, they haven't legalized this and that. So they got to go raid some guy's house in Berkeley and stuff. Really? Are we all out of problems?
I say when we're done eradicating heroin, meth, and cocaine, then maybe tackle the pot problem, if
and
it
look,
is one.
There's this constant argument where they're constantly evaluating marijuana, and they're constantly saying, look, and by the way, you want to talk about the government. The government can spin anything, any direction they want. You know, their scientists have not found, they didn't see that cigarettes weren't bad for you, and there was no global warming 5 years ago either.
And segregation was legal.
Right. You guys can go ahead and spin anything, any direction you want to spin things, and then if I want to go pay some scientists to spin it my direction, they can go spin it my direction. If I want to say that 55,000 Americans die of secondhand smoke every year because it's my agenda, then I'll pay somebody, and that's the data I'll get back from them. So A, I don't believe your retarded data, but B, it makes no never mind to me. If somebody is suffering from AIDS, somebody is suffering from cancer, leukemia, whatever they're suffering from, and they have decided, just them alone, that this marijuana cigarette helps them in some way, shape, or form, then let them do it. Who am I to stand in between their mouth and that joint when the person's body is riddled with AIDS or cancer, or you fill in the blank? If they've decided it helps them unwind after a long weekend, or they've decided it helps them keep their food down, and they're not going to yak up their insure this weekend, and they're not going to become emaciated because of the marijuana, then all the guys and all the lab coats and the entire planet could tell me it's bad. But if the one guy with AIDS says, I like a marijuana cigarette and it helps me keep my food down, then God bless him. He gets to do it. Really? I mean, what year is it that we're still talking about this? What year is it that we're still busting these places?
It's shocking because so many people with wasting disorders who have trouble eating say that pot helps their appetite, and some of these people have obviously never smoked pot before. They're little old ladies, or, they're people who just had trouble with all of the other drugs that treat this.
And then the man gets involved, and the man goes, well, they have pharmaceuticals that are just as effective. All right, so I'll take another drug?
For some people, they're not as effective. Absolutely not.
Even if they're just exactly the same, this is a goddamn weed that grows in my back effing yard. Do I really got to make the trip down to the Rite Aid and pay the guy $55 for the stuff that comes in a little pill with the Pfizer stamped on it?
Yeah, because Pfizer needs your money.
One day when I'm really bored, I'm going to grow a huge pot plant in my backyard. And then somebody is going to arrest me, and they're going to try to take my house away.
Dude.
And I will take every penny I have and wage war, and I think I'm going to